We all start ultra running for a variety of reasons. For me, that was thanks to one particular race, which made it possible not only for me to participate, but for me to grow within our ever-growing community that is the ultra running world. From that, I was completely and utterly hooked. And here we are now on a weekly podcast talking about ultra marathons, thanks in the main to that event. That event has led to me kind of exploring this ultra world and looking into our community a lot further. With the return of this event on the horizon, let's talk to a man with his own perspective on this. Hello and welcome to the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshy. Hope you are all well. So let's bring in today's guest, the man that I mentioned there. Let's welcome Steve to the show. Hello, Steve. How are you?
I'm very good, mate. Thank you. How's you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Thanks. Are you much running at the minute?
Yeah, I sort of lost my mojo a bit at the back end of last year after doing my big ultra, but I've got quite a few races coming up. One next weekend and the weekend after, and I've really got back into it. So, yeah, running a lot of big runs every weekend. Yeah, really enjoying it again.
So, just introduce yourself, Steve. Who are you? What do you do kind of day to day? And what's your involvement in the running community? Are you part of a club?
Yeah. Well, day to day, my real job is as but it used to be called a magazine publisher, but as the decline of magazine continues, it's I suppose the word publisher is the better term because of the sort of digital side of it. In terms of running, I've got my own running club. It was launched 3 years ago with my wife Natalie and two other friends. It's based in Bourne, called Natural Born Runners, and that grew within 2 years from 5 people to a Facebook following of 330. So that's brilliant. That's what nearly all of my runs are, group runs or just with my wife. And yeah, a little bit like you, I suppose ultra running is my main passion at the moment. And the Grim Reaper is the reason behind it, I suppose.
So take me through your running journey that takes us to the point of your first ultra. So we talked there in the intro and I mentioned this event. It's the Grim Reaper. Lots of my regular listeners will know that I've spoke to other people that have done that event in the past. And here we are talking about this great event again today. So take me through your journey to get you to the Grim Reaper, that first ultra that you did.
Yeah, well, I suppose like anyone, when you start running, you probably start doing 5K and it feels like the longest run possible. I remember I started running because I felt guilty because my wife was running a lot and I was constantly sitting at home feeling unfit and I suppose guilty that and in the relationship, my wife was this super fit runner and, there's no way I could run a couple of miles. So I started running, sort of eventually did my first 10K. I think I did a half marathon, which was absolute hell on earth. But I wouldn't say I was particularly excited by doing longer distances. And I think it was about 2011, a friend of mine had got into the London Marathon as a charity place. And I remember sitting with him in the car and he was telling me how he was going to do a 20-mile training run. And I can still remember the feeling that I couldn't comprehend how anyone could run 20 miles. It just blew my mind. And at that particular point, I had absolutely zero interest in doing a marathon. And I don't think I even knew what ultra running was, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
didn't know anyone who did ultra running. And I suppose in a way, marathons were seen as the pinnacle distance. So, yeah, at that point, an ultra wasn't even on the horizon. And then it was in 2013, I got a place with my wife in the London Marathon. And all of a sudden, those 20-mile training runs that I couldn't comprehend became reality. And I suppose that's where my first love for long distances came from. So we both did that. We trained perfectly through following an online training plan. We completed the London Marathon, and I loved it. But bizarrely,
What was it? What was it that made you love it? What made you fall in love with long distance running at that point?
well, I suppose for me, I actually enjoy training in a weird way. I know a lot of people hate the training and love the race. I was a little bit different. I really enjoyed the training, and then the feeling of crossing the finish line was just immense. I'm a terrible crier, so if I do an ultra or a marathon, usually I'll cross the finish line and I'll have to hold back tears. And it doesn't matter what race it is. This isn't just the big marathons. This is any, and I think it's that sort of feeling of achievement. So I love that feeling, and that sort of got me into longer distance running, and that got me into doing the first Grim Reaper, or the first time I did the Grim Reaper, which was the same year, 2013. And that was mainly because Keith, who was the guy who founded the Grim Reaper, I worked with him. So he kept saying to me, Steve, if you can do a marathon, you can do 40. Just keep ticking over, keep doing the odd 20-mile run, you will be able to do it. So my wife and I, we trained, not massively, but we kept doing a few 20s, went along to the day, not knowing what to expect. And we did it. It wasn't pretty by any means. Quite a bit of walking involved, a few tears when I crossed the line. But yeah, I did it. I enjoyed it. But in a weird way, as much as I enjoyed it, I didn't consider doing another ultra for another 6 years. Bizarre. So again, like the London Marathon, the first Grim Reaper for me was almost like it was a tick in the box. I've done a marathon, I've done an ultra, bang, that's it.
Yeah. So obviously 2013, you do your London. I'd imagine there's many people that have gone into the ultra world that potentially have done that marathon. And obviously between 2013 and 2019, you obviously continued your running journey, but after that initial kind of London marathon and then the ultra at the Grim, did you go carry it on consistently, or was it kind of a bit sporadic?
No, it was strangely, when I did London, I did it in 3 hours 57. So I wasn't chasing the time, but in my mind, I would have liked to got under 4 hours, which I did. I then thought I had it in me to get under 3:30. So in 2014, I entered the Milton Keynes Marathon, which is horrendously boring. I have to admit, it's not the prettiest of marathons, but it's flat. And I was a little bit cocky that I trained myself. I didn't follow a training plan, and in my naivety, I thought doing long runs at marathon pace to get under 3:30 was the right thing to do. And in my mind, it just made sense. If I can run 18, 19 miles at 7:30, 7:45 a mile, then I can do it for 26. And I still remember the feeling of seeing, I saw my parents at about mile 5 and I was flying. And I remember sort of, again, feeling arrogant. I gave them a smile, almost like this is going to be easy. And then I got to mile 20 and I hit the wall. And when you hit the wall with 6 miles to go, you're in a lonely place. And I ended up missing 3:30 by 1 minute, 52 seconds, I think it was. And still to this day, my wife said, when I crossed the line, it's the worst she's seen me look, that I was just dead. And I don't know, that was it. I didn't enter another marathon for 4 years. I don't think I did a half marathon. I don't like 10Ks. So my running was pretty much just running with my wife. I wasn't a club runner. It was just ticking over, really. It's a bit of a fitness thing. In terms of doing another long distance, that wasn't until 2018, I think.
So just quickly, let's pick up on that, because that's something I've talked about recently. Hitting the wall at 20 miles. So I've been there and done that. I did it at 17 miles in my first marathon. Completely wheels came off and everything. Anyone who's been there, if you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. But that 20-mile point, in a recent conversation has become really interesting for me in marathon running, because the wall, I call it the 20-mile cliff. And the reason I call it the 20-mile cliff is because if you look at anyone that I've seen in the last sort of couple of years do marathons, and you look at, say, their Strava or their Garmin analysis, whatever they use, it's been really good and really consistent to that point, and then it just drops off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but no matter what, as a coach for me, or as a, you know, kind of a leader of a running club myself, and you're part of your running club and you founded that, and, you know, do you see that often? And what's the advice that we can give people? Because the truth is, all these years on, it still happens, and people just still past it. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, when I did another marathon in 2018 when I wanted to do under 3:30. It bugged me for a few years. And a friend of mine that's a sub 3 hour marathon runner, he's done an Ironman. He did a training plan for me, and the training plan was bizarre. But it makes perfect sense now I've done it, that in the week, I think I was doing 3 short runs, but they were all fast. So there were hill sprints, they were tempo runs, they were sprints. And the week was spent building strength, building speeds, and trying to improve my lactic threshold.
Yeah.
And then the weekend would be a long run, but the long run was at a 135 heart rate. So it felt wrong that my long runs were all slow. But as I got fitter, my 135 heart rate, which was 9.5 minute miles, changed to 8.5 minute miles. So I was burning fat and not carbs. And the whole process felt wrong. But when he first said to me, you need to go and do a half marathon, you need to treat it like a marathon, and you need to get under 130. I went there and I felt amazing and got 125, I think. And when I actually got to the marathon, the last couple of miles were tough. It was the Edinburgh Marathon, and you know, when you turn around and you're on the coast, if you've got headwinds like we did on that day, it's horrible. And yeah, the last 2 or 3 miles, my pace drops by probably a minute a mile, but I put that down more to the weather than actually hitting a wall. And I was going for it that day. You know, that was my, I need to get under this time. It's a bit of a bugbear. And I think for me, that was a lot to do with it. It was training hard in the week, but my long runs were slower. And again, when we might come on to it, my training for an ultra last year, it was a very similar concept. And it feels wrong. You know, when you're doing a long run slow, it feels really, really wrong. And we've got a particular guy in our running club that it was only about a year and a half ago. He was a 5K runner, a guy called Rodolfo, top bloke. And then he did the Manchester Marathon last year, and he trained really well. And on the day, I'm sort of watching his splits, and he's going 10-minute mile, 10-minute mile, 10-minute mile. And I keep thinking, there's going to come a time he's going to start struggling, as most people do. And the whole 26 miles, I've never seen anything so consistent in all my life. It was incredible. So, yeah, that to me was the biggest learning, really, to train really hard, shorter distances, fast hills, and then, yeah, go slow on your long runs. And on the marathon, I suppose as well, don't get too confident. You know, so you're going to start, you're going to feel good. And if your plan is to go 8-minute miles, you're going to start thinking, I'll tell you what, I can do this in 7-minute miles. Believe me, you won't. Yeah. You know, it's better to start slow and go faster, in my opinion. So start slow, and if you feel good at half marathon, then speed it up.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And actually, you know, some awesome advice there and some experience for anyone who's stepping up to the sort of marathon, ultra marathon world. I think some great advice there. So let's talk about 2018 then. So here we are, 2018. Let's go back to that intro and let's set the scene, Steve, for anyone who doesn't know what we're referring to here. So you and I have clearly got something in common. We found a race for completely opposite reasons, probably, or you worked with the founder, and there we were, and we've both bowled up to this ultra marathon in 2018. So I was there as well, and we didn't know each other then, but I think that was the year after I'd done the 70 miler there, and we're both there in 2018. I think I was part of a team and I think you also ran a solo distance of 40 that year as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I did in 2019 when I did it, but yeah, I did the solo 40.
So 2019. So yeah, I was there that year as well. So for me, the Grim Reaper is an event that myself and a couple of others from my running club, High Runners, found in 2016 was the first time we ever went. And then we went consecutively through after that and did various different distances between us. And, you know, we've managed to have someone run at least a solo in every discipline. So the 40, 70 and the 100. And so let's set the scene. 2019. What is the Grim Reaper? Why don't you tell the guys what the Grim Reaper is?
Yeah, the Grim Reaper is at a beautiful location called Grimsthorpe Castle, which is South Lincolnshire, near a town called Bourne. And it's a lap event, so 10-mile laps, and the distances are 10, 40, 70 or 100 miles solo, or 40 or 100 miles teams of 4 and teams of 5. And it's a beautiful route. It's probably 70% trail, I'd say, 80% trail, and the other 20% are on estate roads. So there's no traffic. It's just a magical place. I run there a lot. There's a beautiful public footpath that goes through the estate, and I would say every 2, if not 3 weeks, I'm running through Grimsthorpe, and I never get bored of it. I think some people probably think I'm the most boring runner in the world because that's all I do. But it's incredible. And that's what drew me to it again in 2019 was, okay, so it's a great venue. But it's the whole community, I think, about ultra running. And the fact it's a lapped event means you're always nearer the runners. And, you know, when you're feeling down, which you will be at times, you meet people that you would never, ever meet in a different walk of life. And I love that. And yeah, that's why I suppose I fell in love with the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, and you know, from my experience of that, I'd echo all of that in terms of the venue. You know, Grimthorpe Castle itself and the grounds. You know, it's a great place to run. And you know, having done, I'm not sure what my total lappage now is because I did a DNF 70, so I did 5.5 laps before being pulled out in the back of the van due to hypothermia, and then I managed to complete a 70. And I've done various laps as part of a team as well. And do you know what? You'd think it would get boring after a few laps, but it just doesn't because it's just a great place. And there's this long straight that I remember in the second half of the lap where you can just at night, you can see this light on the top of the castle and that light just is there and you're running towards the light, as cheesy as that, but you are. And it's really cool. And, you know, I've had a great experience there myself. So from that, 2019, you've completed the 40 for the second time. And you decided that you know, the Grim Reaper itself had given you a good springboard to go out there and look at other things in the ultra world. So what was the natural next kind of progression for you?
Well, I finished the 40 and I remember sort of finishing, sitting there having a beer and still seeing runners go past that were doing the 70 and 100. And again, I couldn't comprehend how somebody can do 70 miles. You know, when you finish a 40 and you're not used to ultra running, it's hard. You know, you can't be complacent. It's a long, long way. So I went home, and as all ultra runners do, give it a couple of days, and you're thinking, yeah, I want to go further. So I entered the GB Ultras Manchester to Liverpool, which is 50 miles, and that was going to be April 2020.
Is that down the canal?
Sorry?
Is that down the canal? Is that the canal?
Yeah, it follows. I think it follows a canal, river. It's a bit of everything, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the plan was basically a step up to 50 miles, and that was a point to point. So instead of it being laps, and then I entered, and I really don't know why. I entered Race to the Stones, which would be in July of the same year, and that was with a friend. So yeah, I had a 50 booked, which was the logical next step up from the Grim Reaper. And then I had a 100k booked in one day, which was the next step up from the 50. So again, I'm buzzing. 2020 was going to be my year. Really looking forward to it. Started training in January, and then obviously COVID hit, and everything completely went out the water. So the Manchester to Liverpool was put back a year. Race of the Stones was put back a year, and then I also entered a 30-miler called Waterways 30, and that was March. So throughout the COVID pandemic, I ran a lot. There was nothing else to do. With my wife being a runner, the weather was great. We just ran a hell of a lot, so I felt good. But when you've gone a year without any races, and I don't know what it was, I just kept thinking, if I was ever going to do 100 miles, 2021 was the year, and there was logic.
Non-runners say there's no logic, right? If you're a non-runner, they would think there was no logic in thinking about running 100 miles. But I get you.
It's sort of, it's been a little bit of a dream for me, but something that I never really thought I'd ever try. So in my mind, it was around about Christmas 2020. I'm sitting there thinking, the Waterways 30 is a training run for the 50. The 50 is a training run for the 100K. Then if I can find a 100-miler, sort of autumn time, it works. So I spent ages looking for a flat 100-mile race. You know, I live in South Lincolnshire. We don't do hills at all. And I kept trying to find a race, and I couldn't find one that fitted in with my schedule or the right type of event. And then in a moment of madness, I sat there on YouTube, like we all do, watching these inspirational videos. And there's one in particular by Ben Parks on running the North Downs Way, the Centurion event. And I remember sitting watching it when my wife was next to me, and I was just laughing, thinking, that's ridiculous. You know, it's 11,000 feet of ascent. You've got a great runner there, in tears at times. And it was just like, nah, that's a different level. So I sort of resigned myself to the fact that I wasn't going to do 100 miles. And then, I don't know why, a couple of weeks later, I watched it again. And for whatever reason, I just thought, yeah, let's go for it. So it was 4 weeks after Race of the Stones. And I entered it in December 2020. Still had a couple of races cancelled in 2021, but Race to the Stones and then the North Downs Way went ahead. And bizarrely, the North Downs Way is where the idea to relaunch the Grim Reaper happened. So it's weird how if I hadn't done the Grim Reaper in 2019, I wouldn't have wanted to go further in 2020. And then if those races weren't aligned and I hadn't done North Downs Way, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt. So it's sort of, you know, when you say to yourself, things happen for a reason. Yeah. I truly believe it in this case.
Yeah. So I'm gonna touch on that now. Then that's something that I wanted to really dive into and unpack a little bit. So, ladies and gents, those of you that will have heard my passion for the Grim Reaper over the last sort of 17 episodes of this podcast, we would like to introduce Steve and Laura, who are now the new and current owners of the relaunch of the Grim Reaper. You know, great work from Keith all those years that he put the time and effort in. And here you are, Steve and Laura. You're gonna be relaunching the Grim Reaper, and you know, for me and from my running club, it's a massive thank you from us, because it was a race that we absolutely love and have had some great running club memories there. And there we were in 2019 before the pandemic. It wasn't going to happen, right? The 20 Grim Reaper wasn't going to happen. There wasn't going to be an event before we knew about COVID and anything else. So, you know, let's unpack that. There was a certain point in your 100-mile, which did you finish that 100-mile?
I did. Yes. Yeah. It again wasn't pretty, but finished it, which I'm incredibly proud of, and just looking for the next one. But I did. Yeah.
So there was a certain point in that race. I think you said it was mile 64, where things started to unravel a little bit, and you and Laura, who is Laura? Tell us who Laura is, and we can get her on the show at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah. Laura is she runs in the same running club as me. She's got her own running shop called Bog Dog Running. And yeah, she's a good mate, absolutely bonkers. And she agreed, along with, of course, my wife and a guy called Keith, another Keith, to be my pacers for the North Downs Way. And Laura was my first pacer. So I think it was mile 54 to 72. And it was around about 64 that it's starting to hurt. And I can still talk. I'm still sort of coherent at the time, but we started talking about various different things. She was really good at keeping me talking and keeping me sort of occupied, I suppose. And we both sort of let slip for the first time that we would love to do a race. We love to organise a race. And Laura had been to the Grim Reaper with her shop, I think, a couple of times. So she knew all about it. I think she even paced a couple of people in 2019. So we've both got a big passion for the race. And yeah, really, when we both sort of admitted to each other we'd like to do it, we were both a little bit scared about doing it ourselves. So it made sense. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we join forces, and together we will relaunch the Grim Reaper. So yeah, if it wasn't for the North Downs Way, yeah, we certainly wouldn't be here.
Yeah, no, it's funny, like you said, things line up and ducks get in a line and things happen for a reason. And you know, from our perspective from the outside, we were just absolutely thrilled to hear it was coming back. And you know, to the point where a few of us ourselves had very early discussions about the idea of, well, if Keith, because you know, we got on with Keith year after year, we met the guy, but it's great fun, and he was always very involving with us and accommodating for us. And, you know, it was more than just a race director. He got involved with the actual runners, and 100%. He was great. And I think, you know, we were sort of like, oh, I wonder if we can contact Keith and ask him his thoughts, if we could maybe take it over, whatever. And then just as we're getting into that, we get to meet you, Steve, and you've done all the hard work for us, which is awesome, because quite frankly, we're just happy it's back. Let me ask you a question. You didn't know how passionate we were as a club about your event, but now you've heard our take on it. Does it surprise you that other people felt so passionately about it?
Yeah, if I'm honest, it's strange when you run it yourself. You meet people, but you don't get a chance to talk to as many people as I'm getting to talk to as we lead up to the events. And obviously speaking to yourself and a few other of your runners who contacted me as soon as it was announced, it really hit home that, I tell you what, there's a huge following for this race. And literally every single person who's been in touch is so excited about it coming back. Yeah, and it's taken me back a little bit. I must admit, I knew it was a great event, but for so many people to be as excited as they are, it's quite humbling.
And what do you think it is that leads to that? I mean, I know the answer from my perspective, but what do you think it is that makes people have that affiliation to it, or, you know, that passion for it? What's something that sticks out for you?
To me, a big thing is the venue. You know, when you're running down towards the house, finishing a lap or starting the next lap, it's pretty special. There aren't many places like it. It just seems to have a very, very great atmosphere. I think so many people camp over for the weekends. And I think because it's lapped, even if you don't camp over, you have a little camp for the race itself. And because of that, people get to know each other. So many friendships seem to be born at the events, and these people keep coming back. So that friendship comes back, and then they create another friendship. And it sounds a little bit cheesy, but it's a bit like a massive family of people that keep coming back. And yeah, that to me is what makes it special. What about yourself? What is it that you guys love about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo that. So there's a couple that we met a few years running down in Plymouth, I think they live, and they were up for the Grim Reaper, and we got to know Louise the wife of this guy that was running more, because she was actually there as an individual spectator for her husband, which obviously for, he was doing the 70, I think, or maybe even the 100 on one of the years. And, apart from a couple of minutes or a few minutes every 2 hours, she was kind of sitting by herself. And what actually ended up happening was she was kind of the opposite side of the main track down towards the house. And what actually happened was she then just kind of was sitting in her deck chair and, very picturesque, sun was shining. It couldn't have been any better. She's sitting there and then she starts chatting with our supporters or our runners that were in teams that weren't running or whatever. And before you know it, she's sitting over with us having a chat. And this is someone that lives like the completely opposite end of the country, and that's just one. And then there's many others. We had Redders. So Lisa Redmond was on here on the podcast. The reason she was on this podcast was she's done many ultras now, but I met her at the Grim Reaper in 2016. And, little did we know we actually only lived 15 miles apart. But, at the time we didn't know that. And we met her and she was really like accommodating as a previous runner at that event. She kind of welcomed us in a little bit on that first year and talked to us about how it worked. And, this is all before race briefing. And it was just great to kind of have those friendships build. And I think, that's probably the main thing for us, that community spirit of the ultra running group and the ultra running community at that event is what got the buzz going. And, I'm not going to beat around the bush. We don't want any credit for it, but we were by far the biggest club there in the last one that took place in 2019. We're kind of a place. And, even with 40 of us, it still wasn't just a cliquey community where we stayed in our little bubble. We then created friendships, when you're out there and you're running through the bit. I always say in my head, welcome to Jurassic Park, because you just run through this little hill bit and the leaves are big and overhanging. And, you're running through there with people that you've never met in your life. And my perspective, it was the community of the ultra world, but actually meeting people from all different walks of life that, quite frankly, unless you were runners, you wouldn't meet each other.
100%. I met some great people, from young lads doing it for the first time that were going from 10 miles to 40. I remember running with a guy, he lapped me. The first time I did it in 2013, this guy lapped me. So I was talking to him on my last lap and he was 10 miles ahead of me, doing the 100. I've met a guy that does ultra running to help with an addiction. You meet some incredible people, some amazing stories. That's what I love about ultra running. But it just seems that the Grim Reaper, the mix of people you get, and I think because of the lap format being ideal for your step up to an ultra, you just meet some great characters and you're able to help them. That's what I love about it. And they help you as well. So if you're struggling, there will be somebody that will go past and they will talk to you. It's not like a marathon where people go past chasing a time, and you get a grunt or at best a hello. People go past you and have a full-blown conversation with you, and it's a brilliant community, and the Grim Reaper is as good as it gets.
Yeah, and I think one other thing that I've taken forward in my, not only in my own running, but in my coaching a little bit as well, is the idea of nutrition on course. I think, don't quote me on the name, you probably know, the course record, I think, is probably still held by a guy called Adam Holland, is it?
Adam Holland, yeah. I was talking to him recently about it, yes. I can't remember what the time is. 16 hours, I think.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable, really. He was doing the first year we went, he was doing 100. We don't know him from before or anything like that. We actually met him at the Grim Reaper, but funnily enough, a couple of our members who were there with us are from sort of the West Country and know him from their old running club.
Yeah.
So we got talking to him, and what I'd realised was that on the first lap, he was doing 100. He'd actually hidden packets of hula hoops as his salt intake throughout the each lap, because he was literally running in the most stereotypical vest and shorts.
Yeah.
And I thought, how's he? I know it's 10-mile laps, and I know people can run that distance very unfueled, but when you're at lap 6, you're going to need fuel during the lap. And I thought, how's he still going? And it was the hula hoops. And, you know, for me, I then took that into a London Marathon a year after or so, where I knew that I was going to hit the wall at 17 miles, and it was probably just due to a lack of salt intake and whatever. So I actually made sure I got a packet of mini cheddars and hula hoops and ate 17. And it actually got me through a marathon really well. So you pick up all sorts of stories and friendships and tips without even asking for them.
I
think, you know, for me, that's what the Grim Reaper is. It's the stories, you know, to use a quote from the Barkley Marathons, the stories from out there, you know, every race will have them. And the Grim Reaper certainly creates for me a bunch of stories from out there that you're only going to know if you know. And if
definitely.
So some more questions on that then. Obviously, we're not here. We're here because we've met because we're both passionate about this race.
Yeah.
And then you've now managed to turn it into a bit of a hobby for yourself, and you've taken on this race, and you're going to set up this ultra run again. So tell us a little bit about how that's all going and the plans and relaunching the Grim Reaper for people to come and get involved.
Yeah. Firstly, the Grim Reaper wasn't broken. It was one of those that we could have taken it on and done exactly the same thing, and it would still be, in my opinion, one of the best ultra events in the country. But Laura and I, we just had loads of ideas that we felt, okay, how do we make it better? And they're not big radical things because it wasn't broken, but they're little things that put together we think will make it considerably better. And the first, and this to me is a really big point, is the Grim Reaper used to be a Friday event that went through to Saturday morning. And we've changed it to a Saturday event that goes through to Sunday morning because we just felt it would open it up to more people that didn't have to take a day off work. So that was a big discussion with the estate itself to get them to allow us to do it over the weekends. And that will hopefully attract a lot more runners, whether they're doing the 10-mile race or going for an ultra distance. We feel that's a really important thing. And the more runners we get, the better community we will get for this year and the years going forwards. But there were a few other things we felt would make it better. Even though it's a self-sufficient race, so you're encouraged to have your supplies at the start-finish line, we still felt it needed an aid station at mile 5. 10 miles is a long way, particularly if you're doing an ultra distance, and 10 miles could take you 3 hours. It could take 4 hours. And we just felt for safety, but also people's enjoyment, it will need an aid station at that mile 5. And that's been really well received. A lot of people, and you've touched on it with the hula hoops, you know, if you've done 5 miles, you're really tired, and then you've got an aid station there with food, with a bit of drink, that sort of thing. It will help you do another 5 miles. And then when you get to the start finish, you've got your own supplies. Can they get you through to the next 5 miles? So these people that think I'm going to sort of pull out, hopefully this will help them get through that stage and get more people actually completing it.
Yeah, and I think the one of the major draws for me, maybe not the first year, because that was my 2016. I'd done something called the Lady Bower 50 in 2014. So the Grim was the next one for me. That's the next one that I went for, which was the 70 miler. And one of the draws to it after 2016, 17, 18 and 19 to bring our running club along was the inclusivity of it and the way that I felt as a coach, I could transition people from half marathon and marathon to ultra distance in what I would describe as a very relevant environment to ultra running, but with that safety net of the 10-mile loop.
Yeah. And no, 100%.
What were your thoughts on that sort of thing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm the same with runners in my running club. There's a guy in particular. He's a 10-mile runner, and he said, "I'm going to enter the 10 miles, Steve." And I kept saying, "Mate, it's 15 months away. You can run 10 miles." So why don't you go big and do 40? And when you explain it to somebody that you can do 10 miles, okay, so do 10 miles, get a bit of food, get a bit of drink. You can do another 10 miles, you know, with relative ease. You will do another 10 miles. Again, have some food, have some drink, you know, you'll have spectators there. And you just keep thinking it's 10 miles. All you need to do is just keep thinking you're going to do a 10-mile loop. You can do 10 miles, you know, and it makes that transition from a 10-mile runner to a 40-mile runner, I think, really achievable. You know, yes, you've got to train. Yes, you've got to train to 20 miles marathon distance, but you can do that. And it's the same if you're a marathon runner. I truly believe if you can run a marathon, you could make that transition to 70. And yeah, I do think for that reason, the Grim Reaper is a perfect event for your first ultra or your transition to the next distance upwards.
Yeah, no, and I think, you know, with at the risk of repeating ourselves, I think we do have a lot of passion around that between us, and the story since we met have really come out with that. And I think for me, what you're saying there about that transition and the refueling aspect at the 10-mile point, you know, people can manage this. And I think when you look at it, we both naturally have gone on from our first experiences of the Grim Reaper and gone and explored this wider world of ultra running, and you know, to the point where I know we're talking about Grim Reaper here, but you've taken on a race. We're sitting on this podcast having a chat about ultra running. You know, this is all the Grim Reaper's fault, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, blame the Grim Reaper. But if it gets more people ultra running, because it's accessible, then there's going to be other people having these same conversations in the next few years. You know, they'll blame the Grim Reaper in a weird way, but yeah, it helps grow the sport. And yeah, like you say, for me and you, if it wasn't for that event, we wouldn't be talking. We probably wouldn't be ultra runners at all. You never know what path you would have taken. You know, would we still be running? I don't know, but yeah, it's got a lot to answer for.
Yeah, no, it has. And I think we, you know, disclaimer here, we don't want to scare anyone. We're not saying that you've got to go on and do 100 miles or whatever, but we're just saying that there's there is that natural progressive nature within a race that maybe you've already done if you've done the 40 or whatever. And from our running club, just early signs show that a lot of the guys that did a 40 as a team, and what they realized is that they could have done a 40 solo. And now they're just buzzing because they can put that right. Don't get me wrong, they've already done a 50 solo or whatever since somewhere else, but they can go back to the Grim Reaper now and they can put that right and do that race at their own pace as a runner and do that. And I think, you know, it's really exciting what you and Laura, you know, have decided to do here. And, you know, thanks to Keith and what he'd done in the previous years to establish the race and to give yourself the passion to come back and bring it back for us all, because I think we're totally excited about it as high runners. Just in terms of the race itself and the weekend, what kind of plans have you got around it? Have you got anything?
Well, one big thing we wanted to try to. We've touched on the atmosphere being great, but we felt we could still make it even better. So we want to encourage more spectators, and with it being at the weekends, we think that's easily doable. So we're going to have, there's going to be street food available at the start finish line again, which I think is really important for the runners. You know, if you're 2 a.m, if you've got the chance for a burger and chips, then you're going to go for it. But again, encouraging spectators, we're going to have a bar there. One thing that we're both really keen on is having things like music, just trying to get that atmosphere going. That I won't say party atmosphere is the right word, but I've been in races before, and it was in the North Downs Way. There was a particular aid station late on in the race, and as you got close to it, there's music playing, and it just picks you up. It makes you feel, it just gets the atmosphere going, gets the sort of the goosebumps going. So there's little things like that. Because of Laura's running shop, we've got contacts with various different ultra running brands. So far we can confirm, and this is a bit of an exclusive for you guys, but we've got backing from Hoka, Montaigne and Ultra. So they're going to supply some prizes, which we're really excited about. To have companies like that buy into what we're doing, and to be able to offer prizes that won't necessarily always be for the winners. I think that's really important. That yes, we want to reward those who win the races, but in reality, anyone who completes an ultra is a winner, in my opinion. I know it sounds really cheesy, but I think I like the idea of potentially having some spot prizes. So when you cross the line, if your number's drawn out in secret, then you could win something. So yeah, little things like that. Runners are going to have the option of a T-shirt. We just want people to think, okay, we've turned a really good event into something really, really special. And this is year one. This is where I'm sort of excited, because we will build on this for year two. We've got some ideas for year two. We've got some really big ideas for potentially year three that could be a second event. So we're not just two people that are going to sit there and make this event good and then just sit there sort of, yeah, we'll let it sort of be the same every year. We are going to grow it and make it better every single year. So yeah, this is a little bit of a watch this space. Come along and you'll see the improvements, but the year after, I think it'll go even further.
Yeah, no, exciting times. We'll certainly be there in May 23, right? May 23.
Yeah, May the 20th and 21st, 2023. I'm good it's not this coming year. We couldn't get the confirmation from the venue in time for it to be in 2022 to give us enough time to basically spread the word. So yeah, it's going to be 2023. Yeah, I'm excited already. It's 15 months away, but I'm already like a little kid. Just can't wait to get going.
Yeah, no, there's a few of us that are excited as well, and like we'll be there, and we're excited to meet up with you guys and be at the event again. So, a few quick fire questions for you then.
Yep.
What does running mean to you?
Blimey. There's different things I love about running. I love the challenge. And that could be if I go out for a fast 5K or a slow 20 miles. It's always a challenge. I don't care what anyone says, running's never easy. I love the social side of it. And that was only recently I started running in groups. But I'm running with people now that live in the same town as me that I'd never met, and we talk about things that you probably wouldn't talk about in any other situation. So the social side to me is really, really important. And I love the challenge. I really, really do. I love training for events. I don't go to events to win by any means. I'm not that good a runner. I just go to challenge myself. And whether it be a 10-mile race, a marathon, or an ultra, I just want to come away with a smile on my face. And that, to me, is what running should always be about for anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you absolutely echo lots of that. So then, Steve, why don't you just tell us what you would say your top kind of 3 tips are for someone who's looking to get into the ultra marathon world? What would you say? What would you say to people?
I would say the first one is the speed you're going to run. Okay, it sounds cheesy, and loads of people say it to me, but it's right. Is start slow and then go slower. Without a shadow of a doubt, you need to preserve energy. You're better to do the whole ultra in 11-minute miles than go out to 8-minute miles and then having to walk and do 15-minute miles. So definitely the speed. Walk up every hill, literally every incline. And I remember on the North Downs Way, after our mile, there was a small incline. I was running with somebody, and it was a sort of incline. If I was doing a run around my area, I would just go flying up it. It was hardly even a hill, and I stopped and walked up it, and I did that for the whole 100 miles. And it's one of the best tips I was given, is just walk every hill. And the most important, without a doubt, is the nutritional side of it. You're going to use up a lot of energy running an ultra distance. You need to put that back in your body. So even when you don't feel hungry, you need to eat. when you don't feel thirsty, you need to drink. Pardon me. And you need to train to to do that. So on your long runs, train to eat.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
absolutely agree.
train to eat. Work out what works for you. Sorry, I'm just losing my voice. Yeah, work out what works for you.
Yeah, I think, just to echo that, I think when I went into my first ultra, I totally agree with the speed bit as well, but particularly on the nutrition. I'd read somewhere in a book, and many people had said, "Oh, you're not going to feel hungry in that first 20 miles, but make sure you eat. Make sure you eat in that first 20 miles." And then what did I go and do? Didn't do it. Guess what happened? Suffered the rest of the time. So, yeah, no, I think that nutrition point is awesome. Yeah, so carry on.
Yeah. So yeah, the nutrition side, nutrition, walking, walking hills, and definitely the pace. Don't whatever you do, start off feeling good and going sort of 8-9 minute miles. Just take it steady. Unless you're one of the front runners realistically going to win, the challenge is finishing. That to me is the biggest achievement in ultra running. So just go there to finish. Don't go there trying to win. And unless you are an incredible runner and you're one of those freak of natures that goes along and absolutely smashes it. We spoke about Adam Holland earlier. I don't know whether you know this, but Adam, when he won the 100 miles, he actually would have won the 40, the 70, and the 100. And he then drove home to a park run, and he thinks he won the park run. If not, he was certainly in the top 3. So when I say these freaks of nature, that guy's incredible. So unless you like him, just go there just to finish.
Yeah, no, I think those tips are absolutely spot on, and I'd echo those. You've got to run slower and walk the hills. You've got to do the training for it all, and you've got to get the nutrition right. And as you rightly pointed out, I think the training for the nutrition as well. That's
definitely
training. That's definitely a point.
Guys in my running club laugh at me that I'll be going along doing a long run, and I'll have sausage rolls, pork pie, jelly babies, cereal bars, and I'm just constantly eating. But I feel good. I'll do a 20-mile run, and I feel pretty okay afterwards. And I believe that's because I'm eating. I'm putting the energy back in my body. And so I think an ultra is the only event where you could possibly put on weight by running a long way.
So let's ask you another question then, one that I like to ask everyone. In terms of your own journey, what would you say the bucket list race or races are? Have you got things on there that you want to do?
At the moment, no, there's no bucket list race yet. There's always, you look at the Montane Spine race. There's all these races that you think to yourself, I'd love to have a go at some point. I'm quite early on in my sort of ultra running journey, I suppose, that I've only done the 100s. I'm doing an 83 in December, the Dark Side Full Sunrise, which I'm really excited about. I'm definitely going to do another 100 next year. I really like the Centurion events. I'm very tempted to do the North Downs Way again. But if not, it'll be the South Downs Way. So I've not got a race. Do you know what? My wife will kill me when she hears this, but we watched a video the other day about somebody that did a multi-day 250-odd mile race across Wales. And I was quite tempted. Again, probably not for a couple of years, but I sort of like the idea of doing a ridiculous distance over 3 or 4 days. What I love about ultra running is you don't know you're going to complete it. And that doesn't matter how good you are as a runner, you just don't know. And I like that, without being disrespectful, a 10K, 9 out of 10, unless you're injured, you're going to complete it. 100 mile, even if you're a very, very good runner, things can go wrong. And I don't know, that's the appeal to me. So I think at some point I will try multi-day events, but that's a few years off.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really, really interesting answer. Obviously, I asked that question to all our guests, and it's an interesting answer because the way you've answered it, I like it. It's all about your age in terms of years of ultra running when
Yeah,
it comes down to it, because I think the bar can now, like you've said, multi-days, even single events now that are up at 200 miles, you know, the bar can move all the time in ultra running. And really, until you hit the next level, you're not
yeah.
really know whether you're going to give something else a go, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Even though I've now got the confidence I can do 100 miles, but there's no way when I do another one, I will be on that start line 100% confident I'm going to finish it. So once I've done a few of those, then the logical next step is to try to go further.
Yeah.
And the problem is, once you've gone further, where do you go from there?
I agree.
That's what I love about running long distances. Is it's a massive challenge, and you never ever know whether you're going to finish, and you'll go through some dark times, but those dark times, what make it so special.
Yep.
And it's a weird way, there were times on the North Downs that I could have cried. When I finished, there was no way I was going to do another 100-mile ultra, and I genuinely believed that at that time. 3 days later, I'm already researching which one to do next, and that's how ultra running gets addictive. That feeling of doing something special is addictive. So yeah, don't know if that answers the question, but
No, absolutely. So awesome to talk to you, Steve. Awesome to hear about the Grim Reaper and hear your own journey as well. Some really good points in there. So if people do want to kind of now look into the Grim Reaper or follow it, we'll be sure to put it in the YouTube and all the platform descriptions anyway. We'll put the website and the links in, but just tell everyone how they can follow you, social media and whatever else.
Yeah, if they go onto Facebook and Instagram, the page is called Run the Grim Reaper. Dead easy to find. And again, if you just Google Bog Dog Running, strange name, but that's Laura's running shop, and then on there is the link to the Grim Reaper page. So either Facebook or the actual website itself tell you all you need to know about it. To enter, you go to SI entries, which is pretty standard, I think, for a lot of ultra runners. Like I say, it's May 20 and 21 in 2023. So yeah, a long way off, but this isn't a sales pitch, so I apologise to people listening, but I say it to everyone, whether it's a close friend or somebody I've never met before that's asking me, is whether it's the Grim Reaper or not, enter the race. Whether it's, it doesn't matter what race it is, enter it. You're then committed. And the longer you leave it, the more likely you are to think, no, I'm not going to do an ultra. And that's why, I've got entered races that are November, December, later this year, because I'm committed now. I've got to do it. I've got to train, and I'm excited. If I left it to September, October time, then it's easy, isn't it? You think, oh no, I'm not going to bother. The weather's going to be bad. So yeah, that's where you find us, all the information, and we're updating it all constantly as we get new sponsors on board and that sort of thing.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Steve. So thanks for listening, guys. We hope you enjoyed it. I personally am going to look forward to the Grim Reaper returning and the future journey of this event, and also Steve's personal journey as well. So if you think you like the show, if you could give us a little rating on whatever platform it is you are listening, and also a review, or leave a comment if you are watching us on YouTube, that would be much appreciated. Please don't forget to share this episode with anyone who you think could learn from Steve's own experiences, or indeed someone that you think might want to take part in the Grim Reaper in May 2023. So I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and I hope that we can meet here again to discuss more on the Ultra Running Podcast with me, Coach Marshy.